Greetings to you and welcome to this episode of Grace Podcast. I'm Timothy Muse. I'll be your host as we spend this time together today. It's a joy to be with you. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for making this podcast a part of your day. I want to thank you for being on the journey, for really looking into yourself, to finding those areas that may need some attention and some energy. It is an act of courage to do that. It really, truly is. Not many people are courageous enough to acknowledge that there's places in their life that need some attention. Yet here you are, because you have that courage. You want to be better. You want to find those places that need some extra attention and energy. Now, being better means that you're not bad. No, you're not bad at all. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. It just means that there are always places in our lives that are a little empty, a little less than, and we want to give energy to them. If we want to live our fullest life, if we want to be our fullest person, then we want to give energy to those places that may be deficient, that may be struggling a little bit. And even if you're just asking the question, even if you're just here asking, that is truly an act of power and courage to ask that question. So good for you for being here. Good for you for asking the question. Good for you for taking the time. I'm so proud of that. And I'm so pleased to be part of that journey with you. I really, truly am. Thank you for allowing me to come alongside you. If this podcast is helpful, please share it out there. Put it out there in your social media feeds. I post on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, and Facebook. If you follow me or the life coaching on any one of those feeds, you're going to see these episodes. Share them out there. Send them to someone, email them, DM them. Tag me in it if you're putting it out there. I'd love to see where you are. If you're on one of the listening platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, then follow us, give us a rating and review. Every positive rating and review tells the platform people are listening, and you'll get notifications when a new episode comes out. And if you want to reach out to me directly, GraceLifeCoaching.com. That's how you can get a hold of me, GraceLifeCoaching.com. I want to welcome you back into the series on the power of rest. Over our first couple episodes, we talked about the important foundation of rest. We talked about why rest is not laziness, and we explored the science behind why our brains and bodies need periods of recovery. Today, we're going to challenge another common misconception. Many people think that they're tired because they're not sleeping enough, that they need more sleep. Now, don't get me wrong. I've talked about this a lot. Sleep is incredibly important. Sleep is probably one of the most fundamental and foundational things that we need to give ourselves. Most adults simply aren't getting enough quality sleep, and that's a real issue. But have you ever had a full night's sleep and still woken up feeling exhausted? Yeah. Or maybe you've taken a vacation only to come back home just as stressed as when you left. If so, then you've experienced something many people don't realize. Not all exhaustion is physical. Sometimes your body is tired. Sometimes your mind is tired. Sometimes your heart is tired. Sometimes your relationships are tired. And if you're trying to solve emotional exhaustion with a nap or mental fatigue with another cup of coffee, you're treating the wrong person, the wrong problem. Today, we're going to explore 7 different types of rest. And as we do, I invite you to listen with curiosity. You don't have to fix anything today. Just simply notice yourself. Awareness is a powerful tool. Just simply notice where you are. Simply notice where these things are laying in you. Notice what kind of rest your life might be asking for. So the first one is physical rest. We'll start with the most obvious one. This is the type of rest most people immediately think about when they talk about rest. It's sleeping, taking naps, putting your feet up, going to bed early. But physical rest is more than simply laying down. It's allowing your body to recover. Many of us spend our day sitting at desks, staring at screens, carrying tension in our shoulders, tightening our jaws without realizing it. Others spend long hours standing, lifting, walking, or performing physically demanding work. Either way, your body needs recovery. Sometimes physical rest means movement instead of stillness. A gentle walk, or stretching, or maybe doing some yoga or a massage. Taking time to breathe deeply. The goal isn't simply inactivity. It's helping your body return to balance. Okay? And returning to balance sometimes means inactivity. And sometimes it means moving your body in a different way. Ask yourself, when was the last time your body felt truly relaxed? Not distracted, not entertained, relaxed. There's a difference. And though sleep is important and laying down and stillness is important, absolutely, sometimes we're so physically tired that we need to move in order to find balance, to stretch or walk, or move our body in a different way. If you sit all day, then movement is really, really important. If you move all day, then a different kind of movement may be important. So physical rest. The second one is mental rest. Have you ever climbed in bed turned off the lights and suddenly your brain decides it was the perfect time to replay every conversation you've had over the past 10 years? Welcome to mental fatigue. Many of us are constantly thinking, planning, problem solving, remembering, worrying, analyzing. Our minds rarely get quiet. Even during moments that should be restful, we're scrolling, reading, watching, or consuming more information. Our brains never get a break. Mental rest isn't about becoming thoughtless. It's about reducing the constant demand for attention. Sometimes mental rest looks like sitting quietly for 5 minutes. Sometimes it's writing your thoughts in a journal instead of carrying them around. Sometimes it's taking a walk without your phone. Sometimes it's simply allowing your mind to focus on one thing instead of 10. Your brain wasn't designed for nonstop stimulation. It needs moments of quiet. Those moments allow clarity to return. To be able to reduce the amount of stimulation to the brain helps to get rid of that mental fatigue and bring about clarity and focus. The third one is emotional rest. This is one many people overlook. Emotional rest. Emotional exhaustion often comes from pretending you're okay, pretending you're not hurt, pretending you're not overwhelmed, pretending you're stronger than you actually feel. Many people spend their entire day taking care of everyone else's emotions while ignoring their own. Parents and teachers and healthcare workers, pastors, coaches, managers, caregivers, they listen, they encourage, they support, they comfort, they solve problems. By the end of the day, they're emotionally empty. Maybe that's you. Emotional rest means giving yourself permission to be honest. It means having at least one person with whom you don't have to perform. Someone who allows you to simply say, I'm tired, I'm struggling, I don't have it all together today. That honesty is healing. Sometimes emotional rest also means giving yourself compassion. You don't have to carry every burden perfectly. You don't have to have every answer. You're human, and humans need grace. And sometimes our emotions are just too heavy, and we need to allow the ability to say, I'm carrying heavy emotions right now, and I need rest. The fourth one is social rest. Here's an interesting truth. Some people energize us, right? I mean, we have some people in our lives that we're around and we're energized. Other people exhaust us. This doesn't make anyone good or bad. This isn't a statement or a criticism or judgment on one person over another. It's just the truth. Some people give us life, and some people just take it away. It simply reflects the reality that relationships affect our energy. Social rest means paying attention to which relationships leave you feeling encouraged and which constantly leave you drained. It also recognizes that solitude isn't loneliness. Sometimes we need quiet, not because we dislike people, but because we spend so much energy caring for others. Sometimes we just need quiet. Sometimes we just need solitude. Social rest may involve saying no. No, I would love to do that, but no, not tonight. I'd love to go to that party, but no, not now. I'd love to go out, but no, not now. Not tonight, not today. You know, I would love to help you out in this circumstance, but I really can't. I'd love to engage in this conversation, but I don't have the bandwidth to do it. It means creating healthier boundaries. We've talked a lot about boundaries, haven't we? About saying no when we want to say no rather than saying yes. We do that often, don't we? Where it's like, I really want to say no to this request, but I'm going to say yes because I don't want them to be mad at me. Well, maybe they need to be mad at you, huh? Choosing fewer but deeper conversations. Connecting with fewer people on a deeper level, or spending intentional time with people who make you feel safe to be yourself. We live in this cultured world. I talked a lot about that in our social media series, a couple of series back. We live in a very cultured world, and sometimes it feels like we have to put on this show all the time. We need to have people who we can be safe to be ourselves with. Healthy relationships don't drain you every time. They often refill something inside of you, okay? Now, healthy relationships can drain us from time to time. Of course, that does happen. But oftentimes they fill us, all right? So ask yourself, looking at your relationships, looking at your social circle, who helps me breathe easier? And who leaves me feeling anxious? The ones that help us breathe easier, those are the ones that we want to lean into. If we are going to be social, those are the ones that we want to lean into. But it also means having the ability and the boundaries to say, not today, not right now. Knowing what we need, paying attention to ourselves. There's that curiosity I was talking about at the beginning, paying attention to ourselves. Who helps me breathe easier? Who leaves me feeling anxious? What might healthy boundaries look like in my social life, in my people life? And when I say social life, I don't just mean like socializing, going out, having fun. I mean dealing with people, neighbors and coworkers and the people in our lives, the social aspect of our lives. The fifth one is sensory rest. Sensory rest. We live in a loud world. Phones vibrate. Notifications arrive every few minutes. The television's playing in the background. We've got traffic and music and bright lights and computer screens and advertisements and conversations. Our senses are constantly working. Even if you aren't physically tired, sensory overload can quietly wear you down, or maybe quickly wear you down, depending on how much overload you have. Have you ever noticed how peaceful it feels when the house becomes completely quiet? Or how calm it is to sit outside and simply listen to the birds without notifications? That's sensory rest. It doesn't require an entire weekend retreat. Sometimes it means turning off unnecessary noise, driving without the radio, eating one meal without looking at your phone, watching a sunset instead of another screen. Your senses need time to recover too. When I was younger, my neighbor across the way, he had a really cool car. We were talking one time about driving, and he's like, I love to drive, and I just love to drive without the radio on, just listening to the road. And it never made sense to me when I was younger. I always had music on. I always had music going, something on the radio. But as I've gotten older and as my senses are more and more inundated with other things, I reflect on that and I think about that. And I drive a lot of places without the radio on, just quiet, just silence, just me in the car, hearing the rubber on the road, hearing the wheels turn and my brain turning, turning off those notifications, turning off those senses. So maybe your senses need a little bit of rest. Maybe you need some sensory rest, to turn off the notifications, to live and be in a place where there isn't noise, maybe just for a few minutes. Maybe being intentional about that. The sixth one is creative rest. Now, many people hear creative and immediately think, I'm not an artist. I'm not a painter. I'm not a musician. I'm not a creator. But creativity isn't limited to that expression. Every person is creative. Every person problem solves, right? Every partner in a relationship works through the creativity of moving in the relationship. Every parent improvises. Teachers create lesson plans. Entrepreneurs build ideas. Cooks experiment. Come on, we have to figure out what to have for dinner every day for the rest of our lives. So we have to be creative in this. Gardeners imagine possibilities. Creativity requires energy. It requires thought processes and energy. It requires you to invest in that. When we're creatively exhausted, everything feels forced. Ideas stop flowing. Work becomes mechanical. We lose curiosity. Creative rest comes from experiencing beauty rather than producing it. Walking through nature, listening to beautiful music, visiting a museum, watching the waves, looking at the stars, reading inspirational stories. Sometimes the best way to become creative again and regain that creative juices is not by creating, it's by appreciating. Beauty feeds creativity. Beauty feeds creativity. So if you're a writer and you have a lot of writing to do, one of the best ways to be creative in your writing is to read other writers, to experience the beauty of it. To experience the beauty of nature, to experience the beauty of the moment. So we're all creative. We have to be creative every day, and that takes energy. And sometimes we need the rest that comes from creativity. And the seventh one I want to raise up is spiritual rest. Okay, spiritual rest. Now, this isn't limited to any one religious tradition. Please don't go down that road with me. It's about reconnecting with what gives your life meaning. All right? Whether it's a religion or a belief structure, whatever it is, it's about reconnecting with what gives your life meaning. It's remembering that your worth isn't determined by your performance. It's experiencing peace that isn't dependent on circumstances. For some people, spiritual rest comes through prayer. For others, it's meditation. For others, it's reading some kind of sacred writing, or quiet reflection, or acts of gratitude, or serving others. Walking in nature with a sense of wonder and awe. Spiritual rest asks deeper questions. Who am I beyond my job? Beyond my accomplishments? Beyond my failures? What kind of person am I becoming? What truly matters? Those questions don't create anxiety. They create perspective. And perspective is deeply restful. When we can create room for spiritual rest, where we can dwell in our deeper questions and our deeper being, we can really find a sense of balance and hope within our lives. So how does this all play out? What does this look like? Okay. So let's imagine two people for a minute. Walk with me through an imagination exercise. Two people. The first person sleeps 8 hours every night. Awesome, right? Yet they spend every waking hour overwhelmed by work, emotionally isolated, constantly scrolling social media, surrounded by noise, disconnected from meaningful relationships, and never making time for reflection. Does that sound familiar? That's how most people live. They're exhausted, right? They're getting that physical 8 hours of sleep, but they're exhausted because their entire day is consumed with all of these exhaustive pieces. Now imagine another person. They also sleep 8 hours, but they take walks. They laugh with friends, they journal, they pray, they spend time in nature, they protect quiet moments, they say no when necessary, they make time for beauty. Which person is more rested? Sleep matters, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. Whole person rest leads to whole person health. So here's a simple exercise I want you to do. On a scale from 1 to 10, rate yourself in each of the areas. Physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, social rest, sensory rest, creative rest, spiritual rest. What score surprises you? Which area receives the lowest number? Don't judge yourself. This isn't about criticism. This is about awareness. Awareness creates opportunity. Opportunity creates change. So look at that score. Where are you rested? And where do you need rest in those areas? Physical, mental, emotional, social, sensory, creative, and spiritual. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to take one area, do that inventory, and then look at the one that has the lowest score. The one that has the lowest score. Not all 7, just one. If you're mentally exhausted, if it's mental rest you need, spend 10 quiet minutes without a screen each day. If you're emotionally tired, call someone you trust. If you're creatively drained, visit a park or listen to music that inspires you. If you're spiritually weary, spend 15 minutes reflecting, praying, or sitting quietly. Whatever one of those areas has the lowest score, invest in it. Just one area of rest. Just do a little bit to bring that area into a little bit of rest and take away a little bit of the exhaustion. Keep it simple. Remember, I've said before, consistency matters more than intensity. So do something a little bit and keep it simple because you then have consistency. Small amount of restoration practices regularly often change our lives more than occasional dramatic experiences. Okay? Sometimes we tell ourselves, I just need a vacation. But what we really need is to understand what kind of rest we're missing. The goal isn't simply escaping life. The goal is building a life that doesn't consistently require escape. That's what I got for you for today, my friends. Thank you for being here. If it was helpful, please share it out there. Put it out there on your social media feeds, listening platforms. Follow us, give us a rating and review. If you want to reach out to me directly, GraceLifeCoaching.com is a website. At Grace Life Coaching, we want you to be the best you.